Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Formula Era for the second installment here of Season 1. We are here for the Texas Grand Prix. Should be an exciting. It should be an exciting weekend. Of course, there was a slight delay. The race was postponed on Sunday and has been rescheduled to tonight. We still are lacking a few drivers here at the moment. It is that kind of season at the moment, but still 14 drivers, quite happy with that turnout, and I think we're ready to go for this afternoon. So one of our new reserves here is going to take us underway for his first lap. He is closely followed behind by Leopold making his debut. As both of them kind of nearly right beside each other here for position, but I think we are ready to go now, as the Rook is going to come around now, turn 19, and then just past the pit lane entry through turn 20, and then we'll open his DRS just before the start finish straight and get underway for the first lap here around Kota on the long run up. I think it's nearly 30 metres up to turn 1, one of the widest portions of the track here. Try and get in, touch the apex. Not a great exit here, but he has got the power down as he goes through 2 and into the infamous S section where your lap can be ruined. He's gone very wide through there and he has gone off, and he's let Leopold through, who seems to be doing a lot quicker than the Rook, and sets a very, very good first sector out of turn 9 and through 10. He goes now down towards the hairpin of turn 11 onto the main overtaking zone on this track here. Gets as much of that curve as he can before getting on the power. DRS opened right at the top of this kink now, and the run down towards turn 12, downwards corner, left-hander. Again, another one where you can brake late and cut as much of that curve as you want there on the inside, and then through this final part where laps can be ruined, and I'm sure that snap there didn't help him as he comes round now through 15 and 16, and then the long double apex corner right-hander of turn 17 and 18 into the final few parts of this lap. It's been a smooth lap so far by the Kick Sauber driver. They might have a good lineup on their hands with Syke as well coming back, who would have been a CTCR driver. He goes top of the standings with a 1:32.3. Shortly behind him is MDXL with a 1:35.6. He won't be too happy with that. Quiet Boy made good use of himself last week out in Austria, and he obviously won the race here in FA2 last Wednesday. He has gone third fastest, with Brandon Clark only able to go third fastest with a 1:32.4, and Marshy going to the top of the standings so far with a 1:32.2, as Shano goes fifth fastest with 1:34.4. The next is the Red Bull driver to cross the line. He has invalidated. So next after that is M Stowe, who's also invalidated. So I think that is the first round done, unless Syke here is going again. Looks like he is. He's going at full pace here, so we'll see what he can do. I don't think there's anyone else here on a lap. The Rook may be going again, but a lot of oversteer out of turn 11 there isn't going to help him at all. So while we're in this kind of dull period, we'll have a quick look at the drivers' standings. And of course, the big question here today is Tom Roberts is not available. He is not racing today. He won the first round in Austria. He's not here today, so a big opportunity for the likes of Brandon Clark, who's racing under Patricia Ripasa today. big opportunity for him to get a bit of ground on his championship rival and potentially run for that championship this season. Next is actually then Quiet Boy is the next person racing, followed by BP Ace, who is unavailable today, followed then by Go Kart Wolf as Skibidi Skyfall picks up a penalty for a collision with Scythe. Now that's not good. He's picked up another one for a collision with Tyro. No, I don't know what the story is with that, but he's running here, he's doing a lap here with no wing, which is questionable. So we're gonna have to keep an eye on him. He's another one of our new drivers here today, as M Stowe goes fastest with a 1:32.1. Ferrari driver here is driving around with no fuel. So Samuel Villa is going to finish off his final part of his lap as he just cuts the corner there at turn 19 and validates, so he's going to bring that into the pits. So he overshoots the pit lane there and he's back out on track, and he has to go through another lap, so that's not going to be great for him. Quiet Boy out on a lap, so is Leopold, he invalidated. So you're going to see a lot of invalidations, I think, around Kota here today, but it'll be Quiet Boy who's going to be the next one. Quiet Boy didn't validate. He's gonna kick Sauer behind him of I think that's Scythe. He's come out into a good spot here at the moment. Tyro on a lap here now, 3 seconds up, although he has decided to abandon that lap and has let other members through. Marshy, I think, could be on a lap here now as he comes to the end. He's hoping for just a just over a 1/10 improvement to try and kick M. Stowe off pole. And we'll see now as he comes around the final corner what he has. DRS open to the line. He does improve. He goes closer, but not close enough so far. So there's a real chance for Imarji today to really battle it out for pole position along with Leopold, and I'm sure Brandon Clark will improve. He is improving. He's 2/10 up, and he's got drivers ahead of him here that he doesn't want hopefully impeding them of the Red Bull, I think, and a Haas. Oh, and the, well, the Racing Bull got in his way there, and well, that's quite frustrating for Brandon Clark. Tyrrell is going to come to the end of his lap. He picks up a lot of oversteer there. He goes 6th fastest, but with that loss of time at the end, I think he's going to probably be able to improve if he can get round now in time. Go-Kart Wolf also improving. The Haas driver is very, very dodgy at the moment. Go-Kart Wolf remains 7th fastest. Psych, very impressive lap from him there. I just would have just missed that, but Kick have a very, very nice lineup here it seems at the moment. They are 3rd and 4th, so they're going to be in for a nice qualifying position so far, and of course there is also the final runs to go. So I'm looking at that top 6. Definitely the top 6 have potential now to fight for pole position. Try and get M. Stowe back in for his final lap. I don't know if he's going to have the time. I think everyone is about to start their final laps. Leopold finishes his final lap and goes fourth fastest. Now that is his over with. I don't think M. Stowe is going to get in time. There's yellow flags everywhere. Here's the Haas. Hopefully he can stay clear out of the way. Oh. Here's Syke now coming to the line. What can Syke do? DRS open. He cannot improve. So Tyro is the last one that could possibly improve now. What can Tyro do? Tyro comes to the line, and it's pole position for Tyro. He really did pick up the pace there towards the end of that lap, and now he has gone to the top of the standings and will start on pole for the Texas Grand Prix. Oh, right. Probably a forgettable qualifying there, but hopefully the race is a lot better. Okay, we are back. We are back and we're ready for the race. Unfortunately, had to get rid of a few, I suppose, dirty drivers, and that's a real shame. Stowe disconnecting again. I don't really know what seems to be the problem with him. Starting on the front row. But I'm pretty sure the rest of the grid is ready to go. I'm going to try and get Stowe back in now as quick as I can, and hopefully he can be ready for the race as the formation lap gets underway. Everyone else seems to have gotten away smoothly, so it should be set up for an interesting race. And of course, as you can now see, Tom Roberts is now available and ready to race here. Our championship leader has got in. His race that he was racing in previously is over, and he is ready to go as well. As a Haas car, or a Kick Sauber car, has spun off, and Leopold and Syke have crashed into each other and have been disqualified. Tyro's kind of heading off himself because of Stowe's AI. It's going to leave him sitting on the grid for an awful long time. But I actually think he's the only one that's getting his tyres warmed up here at the moment, as he waits on Stowe. It will be an interesting run down towards turn 1 to see what the likes of Brandon Clark can do from 6th on the grid. A very unfortunate qualifying. I think he fell victim to the dirty drivers during qualifying, but it seems like he's going to be all okay today. As Tyro is going to come around the final corner and get ready to start this race. As we see Tom Roberts crawling to the back and also getting lined up. So here we go. Here we go to 5 red lights here for the Texas Grand Prix here in round 2. And it's lights out and away we go. And unfortunately, Stowe, all that great qualifying, he ends up all the way down in last place into turn 1. But Tyro, that means he can get a nice launch all the way into first place, with Brandon Clark filling in closely in second there. As they go through the S's, everyone seems to be going cleanly as the two Kick Saubers go side by side as one gets ahead of the other. I think someone spun off into the back. No one spun off into the back, but Leopold's dropping positions here. What seems to be the problem with him? He's lost out to Go-Kart Wolf and Tom Roberts, who's got an exceptional start all the way up into 7th place, as Stowe retires from the session. So another disappointing moment for him, and it is a virtual safety car. So it's been a dream getaway for Tyro. He has gotten away from the rest of the field. We'll have a quick look here as we get back on the way racing. Leopold's the only one who's gone with the hard tyres, which may be the reason. As look at this, three out breast here through the long right-hander, and Tom Roberts, of all people, has lost out position because of it. But he's going to go back at it down the inside here into turn 20, and he's got ahead of the Red Bull driver and up into 6th place. Very good move from the McLaren driver as he's under a little bit of pressure again, as it looks like Quiet Boy has gone for a move on Syke there, but Syke is going to stick with it round the outside, a little bit of wheel banging inside line through turn 2, and he has the place in P4. So everyone running smoothly so far, no time penalties, only one retirement. MDX Seal already picking up a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings and corner cutting. As you see Tom Roberts lining one up here on Quiet Boy, he's already slowly making his way through the field to where he'll be battling at the front with the likes of Brandon Clark and Tyro, as he has DRS open now. Next on Syke, he's a little bit further, and now he's starting to get into that top 5 of really good drivers. Of course, you're going to have to look out for Leopold, who hasn't got the best of start, but on that hard tyre he's on an alternate strategy to all other cars on the grid. So you will have to see how it plans out for him in his race later on, as Syke goes down the inside of Marshy, but Marshy, I think, went for the old switcheroo to try and get the place back as they're side by side. There's a bit of contact, Syke nearly loses it, and Tom Roberts gets the place because of it. Syke down to 5th, Tom Roberts up to 4th, and he's now already on the back of a podium position, as Brandon Clark is also on the back of Tyro up front. He sets the fastest lap of the race. Now Tom Roberts sets the fastest lap of the race and gets by Marshy into turn 1. So now it is that battle between the Ferrari and the McLaren, first and second in the championship at the moment. It's going to be interesting to see how the two get on, as Marshy picks up a very early penalty, only lap 3, and he's picked up a 3-second time penalty. That's not going to help his race one bit, as Leopold also picks up a 3-second time penalty. That's going to be something that's going to be taken into consideration towards the end of this race. It could be a matter of how many people stay penalty free, and are many people going to be able to do that is also going to be a big question. But smooth sailing so far. Syke right on the back of Marshy as these two battle it out again, both with DRS, which means they're both the same pace. Little bit of wheel banging through turn 12, but Syke has got the place. He's up in the P4, as Tom Roberts crucially picks up a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings, and Brandon Clark will be looking at that thinking he has a real opportunity now to just stay almost 3 seconds beside him in order to take this race win, whether Tom Roberts gets by him or not. But all this battling, as Tom Roberts right on the back of them, means that Tyro is kind of managing his tyres nicely here. He's not under any real pressure. Brandon Clark isn't going to make any outrageous moves, especially with Tom Roberts right in the back, as you see the green, red and orange all battling it out, with a good bit back to Syke in 4th place. So it is very interesting indeed watching these three battle it out here. Once again, this time it's Tyro. It was Owen in round 1, all battling for that first place, no one really running away with it, which is a good thing to see. Of course, you would have had Kevin, who has left the league after his disappointing first race, but here goes Brandon Clark now. He's a little bit closer to Tyro, as Tom Roberts is a little bit closer to Brandon Clark. We'll see what they have, as they're going to go aggressive here into turn 12. Brandon Clark's going to look to get the inside. He's been gone off the track. Tom Roberts is going to try a switchback to get the place and then go round the outside through turn 13 and 14. There's a little bit of contact on the run in towards 16. The three of them all battling it out here. as Marshy gets back by Syke and up into 4th place. As we can see them all battling away here. Down and starting lap 5. If this is what it's going to be like for the whole race, I'm going to run out of breath, as there's more contact between Tom Roberts and Brandon Clark here. It's a real scrap between the two championship contenders here, as Brandon Clark dives down the inside of Tyro into turn 1. They both go off, and Tom Roberts is going to try and switch back, and Tyro is the big loser in that one because he's been pushed off the track, it seems, and has lost 2 places. Tom Roberts now leads the race as Stranger McD goes off into turn 1 and drops down to last place. But it's Tom Roberts now leading from Brandon Clark, from Tyro, and because of all that battling, Marshy has managed to catch back up, and now the rest of the field all battle away in a train of cars all the way down to Quiet Boy in P7. Brandon Clark gaining on the McLaren, a little lock up into 12, but manages to keep it on the track, and so far so good. For Tom Roberts, who is looking like he's making another last to first race win. We'll see what he can do now in the next few laps, as we are probably getting a bit closer towards the pit window, which is where you're really going to see things open up in terms of driver battles and how people are sorted for their race position. Of course, you have to take into consideration the time penalties. Tom Roberts with an already picking up a 3-second time penalty, as Tom Roberts spins out at turn 7 here and has dropped all the way back down to 8th place as he spins again and has beached the car. No, he hasn't. He's kept it running. He's down there at turn 8. He is struggling as he has a big moment through 7 there, and he's all the way down to 11th place now, and is nearly a pit stop off the lead, under pressure now from Stranger McD. But that has really opened things up for the race win, as well as potential podiums, as there's contact once again between Syke and Marshy there, and Leopold trying to get some revenge on his teammate by going round the outside. Marshy can't stick with him. Leopold back up into the podium places in P3, and Syke is back up to Marshy. These are having a titanic scrap up here, and I'm sure that scrap will probably continue into the Discord chats later on in the night, but we'll see what Syke can do on track before he gets the keyboard out with the complaints to the stewards. Tyro gaining close on Brandon Clark, but he's probably thinking maybe he doesn't have to make any mad moves. He made a mad move, or Brandon Clark made a mad move on him, and they both lost out. So maybe he's thinking, as Tom Roberts comes into the pits and retires, so Tom Roberts' race is finished. He is not interested in trying any sort of comeback in this race. He has retired in the pit lane, and he'll be taking home no points. So the championship opens up for everyone else on the grid, and especially for Brandon Clark, who is currently leading the race from Tyro. And then it's a big scrap so far, it's looking like, for P3. So we could have a very, very interesting podium come the end of this race. Tyro has DRS open here and is gaining on Brandon Clark down towards turn 12. He's going to go for it down the inside, keeps it tight, keeps it tidy, and Tyro retakes the lead of this race. So it is going to be a very, very interesting race, and I think anyone really can win it. So we'll have to soon find out as we get ever so closer to that pit window. And you're going to see the likes of Leopold here, currently in third, try and maybe stretch out those hard tyres as long as he can, lead a few laps in open air. But what he's just seeing at the top of the screen there, that's his second penalty of the day. He's already up to 6 seconds of penalties. It's not looking very good for the Kick Sauber driver. So, just over a quarter of the way through the race, and Tyro has back the lead of this race. Brandon Clark, I think, was considering maybe a move down the inside there. He thought better of it, and he's just going to remain in behind them for the time being. Syke, I think, seems to have dropped off a little bit far away in a kind of a Williams sandwich, as well as Marshy kind of being in a Kick Sauber sandwich. Not quite as much of a sandwich as Syke is in, because Leopold is a good bit ahead of him as well, and he is right on the back of the front tree. Of course, he's the only one of that front tree who has 6 seconds of time penalties. So maybe, I think if there was engineers, they'd be looking at it, is that hard tyre really recommended? He's obviously struggling through the corners if he's picking up penalties, whether that's going wide or maybe just turning in too early. Is anyone going to consider a two-stop around here? It'll be a very, very difficult ask, especially if it's soft and back to medium. But we'll see how long the drivers can go on their mediums so far. And the question is also, who's going to be the first to bite the bullet and come in and put on a new set of tyres and maybe try an undercut. Obviously Leopold will be trying an overcut to see if those hard tyres have a second string of life, almost a second wind later on in the stint. Brandon Clark has DRS here again on Tyro. He's already gaining on him again. Tyro, I think, is managing his ERS well though, and down in towards turn 12 he keeps the place and remains in the lead of the race. No battles for position so far. Everything looks tidy, as everyone is kind of driving in their own kind of pocket of space, apart from the front tree, all battling it out on the podium. You're going to have the likes of Marshy, Syke, who will get involved, maybe even Quiet Boy with a very, very good race last week, whether he can do the same. It will be interesting, and we'll see what they can do. Coming out of the final corner now, DRS opened, and I think they're all going to be too far away from Tyro to make any sort of move, as MDN Exil picks up another time penalty. He's really struggling out there, as Samuel Villa is the first to have enough of his medium tyres. He's going to come into the pits maybe to look at an undercut on Go-Kart Wolf. You'll see now, hard tyres, medium tyres off, hard tyres on. 18 laps to the end of the race, as the pit limiter is disabled, and he's back out on the track. I think roughly probably 8 seconds, 12 seconds back from Stranger McD. Marshy's obviously had a little bit of extra life in his own medium tyres, as he has gained a little bit closer to the front tree, as Brandon Clark has actually got out of the slipstream of Tyro there, and I think is just going to comfortably tuck in behind, because him getting out of the slipstream means Leopold would have to get out of the slipstream, which means that I think they all kind of keep position. So I think Brandon Clark is happy for where he is at the moment. He has a plan in his head. He knows how he's going to try and win this race, as Stranger McD gained on Shano there and has got by him. Shano nearly breaking straight into the back of him there, but managed to just avoid him. And I don't know if this is a battle. Is Shano going for a place? No, it is. Shano is technically currently in last place here because Samuel Villa has pitted, so I think he has a little bit more pace in him as more drivers come into the pits. Go-Kart Wolf and Quiet Boy all coming into the pits here for their change of tyres. Mediums off, hards on for Quiet Boy, as well as Shano and MDN XL all getting on their set of tyres. And Samuel Villa, is he going to get it on Go-Kart Wolf? He's not. Go-Kart Wolf has the corner, and we'll see what he can do now as they run through the S section, both with 3-second time penalties. I think Samuel Villa might have picked up another warning there through turn 5, but it looks like Go-Kart Wolf has reacted and survived. As the battle out front continues, Brandon Clark and Tyro scrapping away here as they head through turn 16 now. Tyro has the lead, but Leopold come up alongside Brandon Clark. They're all very, very close. Leopold has more grip, it seems, round the outside here. A little bit of contact, but an excellent move from the Kick Sauber driver, who's up into second place. And Brandon Clark decides that's his time now to come into the pit lane and change his set of tyres, which has set Leopold free on his hards that are in kind of prime condition right now to start chasing after Tyro and go for the lead of the race. And I'm sure he'll be in the lead of the race when Tyro pits and Leopold gets maybe another 4 or 5 laps on his hards, as Stranger McD has picked up a 10-second time penalty for corner cutting. That's probably in the pit lane, and he may get that removed, hopefully, if he wishes to report it. But Shano will be looking at that. He came in to box to kind of undercut Stranger McD, and well, he's done that quite successfully. He is up into 10th place. The battle continues down in 7th as well. Samuel Villa and Go-Kart Wolf right on the back of each other here. It looks like Go-Kart Wolf just has a bit of extra pace through sector 1 because he can't quite make a move. Leopold and Tyro continue to battle here, and we'll see, does Tyro react straight away to come into the pits to try and avoid the undercut from Brandon Clark. He is. Tyro comes into the pits. Leopold continues on his hard tyres, and we continue racing on as Brandon Clark now coming through turn 19 now. Marshy, I think, may have attempted an undercut as well, but he obviously had problems because Quiet Boy has got by him now, so we're going to see whether or not they have successfully done the undercut as Tyro comes out of the pits, and Brandon Clark comes through turn 1 slightly ahead of him, and he's up in the net lead of this race as MDN XL retired on the track there. So everyone here is currently racing 4 points now. If they retire, there will be no points given to them. Syke managed to avoid any sort of undercut, and I think he's avoided an overcut there as well. He is up into 4th place, but he is 5 seconds back from what that front three is, all battling it out. So Leopold is losing a bit of time here, and I think he's probably hoping that Tyro can get on the back of Brandon Clark here. He's on 1 lap fresher tyres, and he's probably going to hope that he can, them two can scrap and he can extend those tyres, get on a set of fresher and a softer compounded tyre like the mediums, and really go after this race win. Of course, he'll struggle with his 6 seconds of penalties, and I think that's going to look good for the likes of Quiet Boy and Syke, who are battling it out here for what could be the next podium place because of those penalties. Marshy does have a penalty himself. Of course, 9 seconds of penalties for Marshy isn't helping him out at all. And he may be looking at probably only a P4, P5 at best. Leopold comes into the pits, absolutely smashes the pit limiter there, but I think he's the last person to go into the pits today, as long as there's no late safety car, so I don't think we'll be needing that anyway anymore. But Brandon Clark will come out comfortably into the lead of this race with Tyro just behind, so it looks like Brandon Clark's strategy of just sitting in behind has worked. He's found his way to get back up into the lead of the race, and it's whether he can just stay that way. Samuel Villa has retired from the race in 8th place, so that's quite surprising. So Alpine, he's not doing his Alpine teammates any favours there by just leaving the race, and now only 100 points are up for grabs because they will not be getting the point for 10th place. Tyro, DRS opened and gets back into the lead of this race. So Brandon Clark, is he struggling out there? Can he not find the pace? Don't really know. I think they are going to continue to battle, but I think Tyro's hoping that he can now kick on in this little bit of clean air and get on and just go and win this race. Very unfortunate out in Austria last time, but it looks like he is having a splendid race here in Austin, because he led from pole, he lost the lead, he got the lead back, and then lost the lead again out of the pit lane, and now has got the lead back again and has 12 more laps to try and see this out. Can Brandon Clark continue to try and keep up with him and avoid any sort of time penalties? Well, we'll see how that pans out. Quiet Boy, I think his pace has fallen off there in the last few laps. He looked quite competitive there ahead of Syke and Marshy, but he's dropped back behind now, back into P6, as Go-Kart Wolf has picked up a time penalty, and that's going to add to, I think, his many. He has now 9 for him as well. Everyone else has stayed quite penalty free at the moment. I think Shane must have had a problem earlier in this race, because he's found himself 20 seconds back from Go-Kart Wolf here, running in 8th place for the McLaren team. as there's an incident. I think Stranger McD has also decided to retire in the pits, which means there's only 8 points positions going to be handed out for this race. As I think Brandon Clark is struggling here a bit because he's getting closer to Leopold than he is to Tyro. We'll see what will happen in the last remaining 10 laps of this race, as Brandon Clark cuts a bit of turn 1 and picks up a 3-second time penalty, so that's not going to help his race one bit. And I think Tyro can see the checkered flag already, as Brandon Clark, I think, could fall out of DRS very soon. He has right now. Whether he can get back into it before the detection zone, I think he might just as he gets to the detection zone. But how much can he gain on Tyro now? Leopold also going to be catching in the remaining laps once his medium tyres are up to temperature. DRS open. He's gaining very, very little here on Tyro. And of course now with a penalty, that's all kind of very psychological. I think Brandon Clark may think this race is out of reach now. But of course he has to think in the bigger picture. He finishes second in this race, which looks guaranteed with the penalties that Leopold has. He will still take a strong lead at the championship here with 2 second places in a row heading into Saudi Arabia here next round. Go-Kart Wolf picks up another 3-second time penalty, and I think he's just going to be finishing out the rest of this race on his own. Now Brandon Clark is a little bit closer to Tyro this time round. Didn't get as good an exit though, which means that he probably won't have any chance down into turn 12. We'll see now as both of them parade down towards turn 12. Tyro still keeps the lead of that race, and I think Brandon Clark's going to get used to having a look at that Valvoline sponsor on the back of the Aston Martin for the rest of this race. But there is another battle, as we can see out on the track, that seems to be a little bit more interesting for provisional 4th place. Of course, Syke is the one without a penalty. He's battled his way up to 4th place here, as Kick Sauber look like they're going to bring home a strong result. Syke is up into 4th place. Now he'd like to kick on now, try and get close to Leopold and bring home a podium for himself, rather than just the podium for the team. But it's looking like that 27 points will come home for Kick Sauber this weekend no matter what anyway, and they need that because I think they are struggling in the constructors so far this season. Oh no, they're not, they are actually doing quite well. They are 3rd with 18 points, so I think that may be a chance for them to take the lead of the championship. We'll have to find out about that very soon, whether that's Ferrari or no. I'd say it will be if they bring home this. I think Williams are also going to bring home a strong showing there of 5th and 6th, which is another 18 points. That could move them up the standings as well, so it's looking like a lot of points are going to come the way of certain teams this week, as Brandon Clark is out of the DRS of Tyro, and it's looking like this race has just slipped away from him in the remaining few laps here of this race, and Tyro just has to coast it home now for Aston Martin. Now that has slightly spiced things up a little bit more. Tyro, I think, was able to pick up a penalty, and it's meant that there has meant that he is going to have a little bit of a battle on his hands here with Brandon Clark, if Brandon Clark can keep with him, because both of them now share the exact same time penalty, and the last 7 laps is just going to be trying to maybe almost keep at least 2 wheels on track and see who finishes ahead of who. I think Leopold could have been looking at this. Maybe if he'd went for the normal strategy, he could have had a real chance here of a race win on debut. Instead, he's going to have a podium on debut, which isn't too bad, as Marshy and Syke continue their battle here for fourth on the road. Of course, Marshy with 9 seconds of penalties is probably going to lose out anyway, but he's losing out on track as well because Syke has kept that position and remains in P4. But I think this is the battle that we all want to be looking at here, because both drivers are having an amazing scrap here for position, as Marshy is up into P4 yet again into turn 1. Here we go again as the two drivers now head down towards turn 11. I think Syke has already kind of launched one down the inside, as there's a bit of wheel banging there on the straight as they head towards the DRS zone. Syke will have a DRS. It's a little bit of a drag race. No, it's not. Syke pulls alongside, gets a bit of slipstream, is going to take the outside line. Marshy's going to stick with it down the inside. Syke takes the outside line and gets the place back up into P4. Really good battling from the two drivers here. Hard but fair, it seems, and I think Syke won't matter with the amount of penalties that Marshy has. It's kind of just a battle for the sake of battling here, as I think Syke has his position here in P4, and he's got a little bit ahead of Marshy there, up to about 6/10, as we see up front. And I've missed that, Brandon Clark having a bit of an issue, and Leopold, who although has 9 seconds of penalties, is right on the back of him. So what can Leopold do to try and distress Brandon Clark here for the remaining 5 laps of this race? Tyro knows now that the win is in his sights. It's in his own hands. Only an unforced error will cause him to lose it, as Leopold would love potentially a P2 on track if he can get by one of the championship contenders here down towards turn 12. DRS available, but he won't go for a move. Marshy and Syke are a little bit too far away from each other, although Marshy is gaining an awful lot on Syke here, and he's going to go for it, and he is going to get the place up into P5. Syke going to try and stick with a little bit of wheel banging on the exit of 12. Syke has the inside line and will keep the place here down at turn 13. As they head through 16 now, we'll switch back to the battle that's slightly more out front between Leopold and Brandon. Leopold with DRS available, only 3/10 back as they make their way down towards turn 1. Leopold brakes later, and he is up into P2 on the softer medium tyres. Now the question is, I don't think it's even a question, but how much can he get ahead? Can he maybe get 3 seconds ahead and hope Brandon Clark makes an error? and take home P2, or will Brandon Clark kind of stick with it here, as I think there's another penalty handed out there towards, I think that was Go Kart Wolf, as Syke and Marshy trade positions yet again there. For the little amount of drivers we have had today, we've had some very, very entertaining battles. As Brandon Clark tried to brake late there, Leopold tried to switch back. They both are side by side through turn 14 there as the two cars collide there with a lot of wheel banging. Leopold has the inside line through 16 here, and a lot of wheel spin coming out of that corner means Brandon Clark's going to comfortably take the position back, and he's up into second place. I was going to just say, with the lack of cars we had today, we may have struggled for entertainment, but the lads haven't disappointed today. Only 8 cars will finish, but it will be an entertaining finish as these two battle for a podium and these two behind battle for P4. So it has been an entertaining race, and I think Tyro is looking behind and laughing while looking behind in his mirrors and seeing the gap get further and further between himself and Brandon. I think he must have had some sort of moment or incident, because he has struggled in the second stint of this race after Tyro did get by him for the lead of the race on around lap 16. Go Kart Wolf came into the pits as I think it was the yellow flag there. I think Brandon Clark may have had an issue there with Leopold, and he's dropped 3 seconds back. Now, of course, he needs to stay within 6 seconds to bring home P2, as I think he's in comfortably in P3 there, so he'll stick it out for P2. So we'll finish off this race between this battle between Marshy and Syke, this more entertainment purpose battle because of Syke's or Marshy's penalties. Although Marshy is probably looking at this and thinking he'd like to get as far away from Quiet Boy as possible, considering that Quiet Boy will probably take the place of him because of his 9 seconds, and Syke, well, is not letting him do that because Quiet Boy won't be an issue, I'd say, in the driver's standings. I think he may be at the moment, but because not being a full-time FA1 driver, he won't cause as much trouble as Marshy will, who will be racing week in, week out. So Syke may be looking at this thinking, I'd love him to maybe lose a position to his teammate here. It'll help himself in the driver's standings, as both of these will be battling for a top 5 finish, as both of them are battling here at the moment, as Tyro picks up another 3-second time penalty, but I don't think he's too worried with his 8-second lead over a driver with 9 seconds of penalties, which means that I think Brandon Clark probably could have looked at that, and if he had stayed close to him, it may have been a different type of race. But Brandon Clark, I think, will be happy to finish in P2 as he picks up another 3-second time penalty, which makes things a little bit interesting for Leopold if he can get 3 seconds ahead and pick up a P2. We'll see, we'll keep an eye on that. But Syke has got a good few seconds ahead of Marshy there, and I think that's how this race will finish. So I think the last 2 laps here from Tyro are going to be just about what the plans are maybe for the league. Of course, we've had a high influx of drivers in towards round 1, of course filling out pretty much both grids, but we've struggled here, especially in FA1 for drivers, but we are hoping to improve that as the season goes on, looking at getting in more committed drivers, hopefully a lot quicker drivers as well, to continue the battle up front as you can see from the likes of today, that Tyro has had an incredible race from pole position. He's had a few moments where he's lost the lead to the likes of Tom Roberts, to the likes of Leopold when he came into the pits. May have been a bit of an issue, of course. He had a multiple lap battle with Brandon Clark, but he has comfortably, you could say, never looked in doubt with his performance today, and is going to take home his first win in Formula Aero. Brandon Clark will have to wait a little bit longer before he gets to do that, as the championship leader, still yet to score a race win. But Tyro, as he comes through sector 3 for the penultimate time, and will start his last lap now. We are hoping that we get plenty more drivers in the league, and hoping for maybe 3 tiers next year. Of course, we have a very kind of competitive group of drivers in FA2 that would love to kind of battle it out. The likes of Quiet Boy, who has left the session there. I think he's had a bit of trouble there with connection issues, but I think he's going to be okay, so we'll just leave it at that. But the likes of Quiet Boy, Go Kart Wolf, Stranger McD, Shano, there's obviously the likes of Richie and Tom, Scouser Tom as well, who are all battling it out. They'd probably like to be in a bit of a tier of their own, as well as then an FA3 for kind of more upcoming drivers who are new to the game, probably need to learn the ropes before they're thrown into any sort of competitive grid. And then the likes of some of the drivers you did see on display today: Marshy, Syke, Brandon Clark, Leopold, Tyro, Tom Roberts, M. Stowe. If he can get his connection issues sorted, we could have a very, very competitive grid. As you can see, Tyro managing his tyres better than Leopold on the hards, and he is going to round the final few corners here at Kota. And after a astonishing pole lap in a quite questionable qualifying, Tyro is going to round the final corner here in Texas, and he is going to win the Texas Grand Prix and get his first win in Formula Aero. What a fantastic race from Tyro. He's really dominated today. Leopold will finish second on track, but Brandon Clark will take that second off him and lead the Drivers' Championship. He'll be very happy with that. Behind them is Syke, who takes home a comfortable P4 with Marshy in P5. Quiet Boy's AI came into the pits there at the end to get the soft tyres on, which means that he'll finish in 6th because of Go Kart Wolf's penalties, which means Marshy will keep his P5 after all. Go Kart Wolf finishes in 6th with Quiet Boy overtaking him on penalties. But it's been a nice race, as Shano is going to be the last to cross the line here in the Circuit of the Americas. So that's been today's race. A fine race from Tyro, the Dutch driver, who was pretty much unstoppable up front. Few shaky moments, but in the end it was quite comfortable for him, and I'm sure he'll be delighted to take home his first win of the season in what has been a questionable Texas Grand Prix here on a Tuesday night, but we had to do it. It's something that's happened. Hopefully we have a much more enjoyable race in Saudi Arabia, but I did find that enjoyable. Lots of battles throughout the field, and I'm sure we will see a lot more of them as the season goes on. But this has been the Texas Grand Prix. I hope you've enjoyed. Good night and God bless.